Hello and welcome to our first Internet Wednesday afternoon talk. A new adventure for Stowmarket U3A and maybe for you too. A whole year has passed since we were last able to meet in person at the URC Hall for our monthly meeting, and we're all missing the opportunity to join together in one place. The committee considered over the year how to restart our meetings. At first, when we thought it would only be a few months of not being able to meet, we published a list of educational talks to access in our newsletter. Since then, Keith and Lorraine have been investigating online talks and what other U3As are doing. This led us to our present style, an online talk accessed through this link sent to you. We hope you enjoyed today's talk, and we do hope with the vaccination rollout that we can get back together very soon.
Hi everybody. As Glynis has just said, our last monthly meeting was way back in February 2020, when Nigel McKnight shared his experiences of what he described as living in the fast lane with dyslexia. Now that talk took a few of us by surprise because it was more about Malcolm Campbell and breaking the speed record than it was about dyslexia. But I guess it paled into insignificance the surprise we were going to be faced with in our daily lives following that meeting. We had no idea how the virus was going to affect our social world. Some of us, like others, thought we'd all be back in business by Easter, but clearly that wasn't the case. It's only now there is an indication of when we might be back in the URC and meeting our friends again. So this is a bit of a new venture for us. We're going to try to replace our face-to-face monthly meetings, at least for the next couple of months, with an online version. We realise it won't fully replace our face-to-face meeting sessions. For example, there's no tea and biscuits following this that you can enjoy with a friend. But you can pause this broadcast now, go and make yourself a cup of tea, bring it back and enjoy it while you listen to the rest of the broadcast. So with a cup of tea at hand or not, this is our first attempt at bringing us all back together again for some kind of group collective experience. You might be watching this first broadcast live, by which we mean on the Wednesday afternoon that the monthly meeting would have taken place. But if you can't make it then, the beauty of this broadcast is that you can watch it at any time at your convenience. Today's meeting, following on from our last monthly meeting, we're going to focus loosely on records, or at least the unusual, and relating it where we can to Suffolk and Stowmarket. As you know, Lorraine and I are still relatively new to the county, having lived here for about 7 years now. So many, if not most of you, will be much more familiar with the county and with Stowmarket than we are. So our challenge is that this session contains at least one thing about the area that you did not know before today. Now, probably every county in the country has residents that are world record holders. So it's not uncommon if we found one or two in Suffolk. If we did have a record breaker amongst us, in what area do you think it would be in?
Is it a world record about being the longest, like that snake? Or the tallest, or the shortest, like the two horses in the picture? Or the most, for example, eating McDonald's beef burgers? Well, it certainly will cover the unusual, like egg blowing. Incidentally, Jean in the picture there holds the world record for being the oldest person at the age of 122 years. Let's stay with Jean just for a little longer. Madame Jean Louise Calment had the longest confirmed human lifespan of 122 years, 164 days. She was born in France in 1875, so she saw the Eiffel Tower being built when she was just 14 years old. And it was at that time that she met Vincent van Gogh, who she described as being badly dressed and disagreeable. At 85, she took up fencing and was still riding her bike when she reached her 100th birthday. At the age of 115, she had a hip operation, and at the age of 117, she gave up smoking, having started at the age of 21 in 1896. She didn't give it up for health reasons. Her reason was that she didn't like having to ask someone to light a cigarette for her once she became nearly blind. When Jean was 90, she had no heirs, and so she signed a deal to sell her apartment to a 47-year-old lawyer called André François Raffray. He agreed to pay her a monthly sum of 2,500 francs on the condition he would inherit the apartment after she died. Raffray ended up paying Jean for 30 years, but then he died at the age of 77. And according to the contract, his widow then was legally obliged to continue paying until Jean's death. In my reckoning, the Raffrays ended up paying Jean nearly 1 million francs for the apartment. Here's some quotes from Jean in her various interviews. When asked on her 120th birthday what kind of future she expected to have, she replied, "A very short one." In other interviews, she mentioned, "I'm in love with wine. I've only got one wrinkle, and I'm sitting on it. I see badly, I hear badly, and I feel bad. But everything else is fine. I have legs of iron, but to tell you the truth, they're starting to rust and buckle a bit. Being young is a state of mind, and I'm still young at heart. It's just that I haven't looked so good for the past 70 years. At the end of one interview, the journalist said, "Madame, I hope we will meet again sometime next year." She replied, "Why not? You're not that old. Don't worry, you'll still be here." Let's leave Jean now and go on to other records. Talking of elderly people who hold world records, we have a Hampshire resident, Doris, the oldest person to abseil at the age of 101. And Jack, a Derbyshire resident, the oldest person to ride on a roller coaster at the age of 105. But let's get back to Suffolk. Have you ever heard of a Suffolk puff? The people of Stowmarket have broken the record for the longest caterpillar ever created using this unique sewing technique. The 90-metre long masterpiece was made by over 350 visitors to the Museum of East Anglian Life, who cut out the fabric, sewed, gathered and threaded puffs into strings to create the caterpillar. A total of 5,864 puffs were strung together to make the finished product, which measured nearly 4 times the length of the museum's 13th century barn. This is the Nutshell, a pub in Bury St Edmunds. Now most of you will know what I'm going to say next. That is, the Nutshell claims to be the smallest pub in Britain, although this claim is challenged by several others. Whatever the truth of its claim, the pub is certainly minute, with no more than 10 or 15 customers drinking inside at any one time. The pub measures 15 feet by 7 feet, and it is, as one of the claimants, mentioned in the Guinness Book of Records. But actually, the record I'm going to tell you about this is the record number of people that they squeezed into the pub. In 1984, a record number of 102 people squeezed into the pub, all plus a dog called Blob. But the record holder I'm going to introduce you to here is from Felixstowe, and his name is Dean Gould. Dean is at the modest age, compared with some of the other previous record holders, of 55 years old. And his world record is in winkle picking. You would be pretty hard pushed to pick more winkles than Dean. He can pick 50 winkle shells in less than 23 seconds. But his talents do not end there. He does in fact hold another world record achieved by eating 113 pieces of sweet corn in 3 minutes. And further research uncovered that in fact he's broken over 55 world records. I didn't realise all the different categories of world records. For example, he holds the world record in beer mat flipping, but also in 360-degree beer mat flipping, beer mat flicking, beer mat catching, beer mat flipping off a bottle, beer mat flipping with 2 fingers, beer mat snatching. And then, instead of using beer mats, there are all kinds of other world records which use things such as dominoes, CDs, coins, Jenga blocks, matchboxes and playing cards. And also, Dean holds the world record for the fastest 301 in darts, 33 seconds, beating the world record holder at the time and world darts champion, Eric Bristow. So let's go now to Dean Gould himself and let him tell you something about his world records.
Hello, I'm Dean Gould, world record breaker for flipping beer mats, coin snatching, pancake flipping, juggling, all different variations of these and many other records as well. Now what I'm doing here today at Felixstowe TV is beating and setting 13 world records, which are all going to be official because it's going to be for the World Record Organisation Cup. Now this record I'm going for is the beer mat flip off the top of a bottle, okay, and the record is held by myself, of course, and the record is 42 beer mats flipped and caught in one go, okay. So 43 beer mats. Okay, this will be a new world record if I do it. New world record, 43 beer mats flipped off the top of a bottle. Right, you just saw a world record. This is another record for beer mats. We've already carried these, and this is an additional beer mat to make 44. Now this is slightly different from the beer mat flipping. It's beer mat flicking. Exactly what it is, you actually flick them off with your finger, like that, which is a lot harder than the flip with the whole hand, okay? So this might take a few attempts, this one. So there's 44 beer mats, and it's a flick. Flick. 44 beer mats, second world record. Alright, this is another peculiar one. So, you take 4 beer mats off to make 40. Okay. Well, 41, because this is another record. And it's a record for flipping the beer mat off a held beer mat. This is what I done a few months ago on the one show. Okay, so it looks easy, but it's difficult to get it right. Okay, 41. Looks easy, but try this at home, I tell you. New world record. 21 beer mats flipped off the top of a bottle and picked up at the same time. New world record. Right, this is another difficult one. So we get the 21 beer mats back. We'll make it 22. Okay, and it's using just the 2 fingers. I won't be picking the bottle up this time. I'm not that good. I'll be flipping beer mats with just 2 fingers and catching them, okay? And the record for that will be 22. Okay. 22 beer mats with 2 fingers. Okay. I go for 40. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 34. 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, okay? So we get these in a 1 column. There's a piece of paper on the table there. Now that goes on the elbow to stop the last kind from sticking. Because what happens every single time, the kind will stick to your elbow, so you'll never do it, okay? That's why it's always best to wear a jumper. Court palm down, 40 coins, all caught. Now, we're going to do it blindfolded, but not with 40, okay? We'll take 5 off. Now this is very tricky, this is, I'll tell you. You can't see what you're doing. So, I'm going to have to do that like this first. I can't see, genuinely can't see. Yes! 35. Blindfolded. That's probably the hardest one record today, actually, to be honest. I hope you enjoyed watching me.
Another world record relates to the reciting of pi. Now some of you may not know what pi is, so here is a quick explanation.
Welcome back. In this lecture, we will talk about the joy of pi. And whenever you think of pi, you instantly think of circles. So let's get our definition straight, shall we? So here we have a circle. Here is the center of the circle. From the center of the circle, the distance from the center to any point on the circle is a constant, and that constant is called the radius, usually denoted by the letter r. If you were to look at the distance from the top of the circle to the bottom of the circle, well, that's going to be twice the radius, and that's known as the diameter. So the diameter is twice the radius. We say d is twice r. And if you were to look at the circumference of the circle, that's what you get when you take the entire start at the top of the circle, go all the way around the circle, and the length of the perimeter of the circle is the circumference. Okay? Now what's rather surprising is if you take any circle and you take its circumference and you divide that by the diameter, you always get the same number. I mean, if you look at this circle, here's the diameter. You say, how many diameters would it take to go around the circle? The answer is, a little bit more than 3. You need about 3 diameters to go around the circle. In fact, that number is close to 3.14. And what's amazing is that you get that same ratio, the circumference divided by the diameter, for any circle at all. And that constant ratio is called pi.
Now, pi is not an exact number. At school, we may have learnt it as 3.142 or 3.1416, but this is rounding it up to the nearest 3 or 4 decimal points. Its decimal representation never ends and never settles into a permanently repeating pattern, and so, in effect, its decimal appears to be a randomly distributed set of digits. Some people take great delight in trying to memorize pi to as many decimal points as possible. Let's see this person give it a go. The video is actually more than 8 minutes long. I've shortened it.
752-137-98214-7521-74028-23664-955-06235-82446-095.
Yep. 1,337 digits.
The video that you've just seen showed the girl reciting pi to a staggering 1,337 decimal places. How is that relevant to us? Going back to Dean Gould, our Suffolk world record holder, he also held the record for reciting pi. Now, how many digits do you think he recited pi to? He recited pi to 3,000 decimal places. What does 3,000 decimal places look like? That's what he recited. 3.14, no, I won't repeat them, but that's the number of decimal places that he was able to recite. What's the record today, though? If Dean Gould recited to 3,000 places, what do you think the world record is today? 4,000? 5,000? The current Guinness World Record is held by Lu Chao of China, who in 2005 recited 67,890 digits of pi. I think that's quite impressive. Now, whilst we're on the subject of mathematics, let's learn a little bit about Einstein's theories.
Let's just do a little tag team here. So this is the form of the Einstein equations, and if you're doing it a little bit more precisely, it has a few more symbols in it if you're not using the natural units that allow us to set certain terms to one. But even that, if we go a little bit further, is hiding this. So this is actually a more complete way of expressing the equations if we're now going to unpack the meaning of that first symbol, g mu nu. But then you look at that and you say, well, wait, what do all those individual symbols mean? This is called the scalar curvature. and that thing G is called the metric, and there's this little combination of them that gives you the scalar curvature. But wait, what does that really mean? Well, that's hiding this complexity right here, because we have this way of hiding the summation symbols within what we call the Einstein convention, using indices that contract in a particular way. So that's what that symbol means. And if you go a little bit further and ask yourself, what is the first term, R mu nu? That's the Ricci tensor, and it's given by this combination of stuff. But what's that new guy on the right-hand side? That's the Riemann curvature tensor. What is that equal to? Well, that's equal to this combination, where those gammas are known as the Christoffel symbols, and then you take those, and what are they equal to? Well, they're equal to a particular combination of the metric contracted with various derivatives of it.
Well, I hope you understood all that, but it doesn't matter if you didn't. What's relevant is that Dean Gould holds the world record for writing Einstein's equation on relativity from memory to over 1,000 symbols, letters and numbers. But let's leave Dean Gould now. Suffolk claims to have another record. Or is it?
Another record that Suffolk claims is that it has the oldest town in England. What town do you think this is? Well, to give you a clue, Suffolk has 828 villages and towns, with only 24 of these considered to be towns. I wonder if you could name them. Which one is the oldest? Well, these are the towns, and Suffolk claims that the oldest town in England is Ipswich. Well, this belief is not shared by everybody, and indeed other counties proclaim that they have the oldest town. Oxfordshire is an example. They claim that their town of Abingdon is the oldest town in England, and you can see that by their town sign. And they claim this because they believe it's the longest continuous settlement of people and dates back to the late Iron Age. Wiltshire has also thrown its hat in the ring. They claim that Amesbury, along with Stonehenge, is Britain's oldest settlement, dating back to 8,820 BC. Their claim is supported by evidence of 31,000 flints and animal bones that have been found on the site. Nearer to home, Essex claims that Colchester is the oldest town, based on the fact that it's the oldest recorded town. Apparently, Pliny the Elder, a Roman writer, mentioned it in 77 AD. It's claimed that this is the first known reference to any named settlement in Britain. And also, coins mention the Celtic name of the settlement, Camulodunon, as early as 20 BC. Thatcham in Berkshire is often said to be the oldest town in Britain, since its occupation can be traced back to covering the last 13,000 years or more. In fact, Thatcham has a place in the 1990 Guinness World Records as being the strongest claimant to the longest continually inhabited settlement in the UK. So finally, we come to Ipswich. The claim of Ipswich, the county's town of Suffolk, to be the oldest English town, is grounded upon the fact that it's the oldest still continuing town to have been established and developed by the English. It has the longest unbroken history of community as a town since the early Anglo-Saxon times. So, depending on whether the oldest town is the one which was written about first, or where people have lived there continuously for the longest time, and of course some of that time it might have been a village, not a town, or whether it's been designated as a town the longest, or because English people have been living there the longest, will affect your conclusion as to whether Suffolk is correct in its claim about Ipswich. Now, talking about Suffolk towns and villages, this is where I'm probably going to embarrass myself. Since Lorraine and I have moved to Suffolk, we've realised there's a number of place names that we've got no idea how to pronounce correctly. And when we try, we're told we mispronounce them. So, over to you. How well are you at pronouncing Suffolk place names? How do you think these are pronounced? Isn't it clear that's Grundisborough? Nope. Grunsborough. Hollesley? Nope. Hoseley. Surely that's Wenhaston. No, Wenneston. Now, we've never needed to pronounce this one, although we've seen it written down, but to be honest, I'm not sure how I would even attempt that one. Debach? Anyway, it's Debbage or Debbich. Well, I think I can get the Thorpe bit right. It's the other bit that might be a bit tricky, because that's pronounced Thorpe Maru. And to be honest, I've always called this Petoff. But no, it's Petter. And there's a whole host of other place names where the pronunciation is there to catch you out. Ella, Mondon, and of course Wannes near Stowmarket. How well did you do there? I don't think there is much debate about how to pronounce the town of Stowmarket, but let's turn our attention to Stowmarket for a few minutes. Just like many other cities, villages and towns all over the country, Stowmarket has a memorial to both honour and remember the people who fell in the Great Wars. Whereas some places have plaques in churches or stone or marble obelisks, cenotaphs or pillars to remember their heroes, Stowmarket bought an area of King's Meadow to form a recreational ground in 1920 and a beautiful set of memorial gates in 1921 as a permanent testament to the sacrifices made by the local community who lost their lives. As is usual, on or near to the memorials are plaques which list the names of the fallen. Now, what is unusual is in the Stowmarket plaques with the names of all the brave men from the three services who died in both the First and Second World Wars, there is a female named. Not only is she a female, but she was a civilian, and the only civilian mentioned as one of the war dead. She was Mrs. Rhoda Farrell, who was unfortunate to be the only fatality in the town during the whole of the Second World War. She had just seen off her son from Stowmarket railway station to go back to his RAF unit near Manchester, and she returned to her Kensington Road house just as the bombs were dropped, destroying the old Congregational Church in Ipswich Street as well as her house immediately behind the church. The URC, where we meet for our monthly meetings, is on the site of the old Congregational Church. Much earlier than the Great Wars, in the history of Stowmarket lived the Reverend Thomas Young. He was the poet John Milton's tutor at Cambridge. He was vicar at Stowmarket in the 1600s and was also the person who invited and paid for Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General, to come to the town. He was reported to have found 2 unfortunate women that were tried as witches. In total in Stowmarket, 5 women were tried as witches. 4 parishioners, one of whom was Israel Barrell, and we'll come across him again later, was responsible for collecting the town rate of £23.06 that was levied for the discovery of witches in 1645. Matthew Hopkins charged a total of £28.03 for his services. When Lorraine and I moved into the cottage that we live in now, there was a large hedge at the bottom of our garden. We dug up this hedge so that we would have a better view of the field beyond. And whilst doing so, we dug up this bottle. It looks in good condition, doesn't it? On the bottle is embossed Thomas Prentice and Company, Stowmarket. So we went on the internet to find out what we could about Thomas Prentice. Thomas Prentice and Company Limited were based in Station Road, Stowmarket. In 1909, they were maltsters. Before that, they were brewers. Although Thomas Prentice's brewery was probably well known in the area, there is something else that the Prentice family is better known for. The Stowmarket gun cotton explosion happened on the afternoon of Friday the 11th of August 1871 at the Prentice's gun cotton factory in Stowmarket. It was blown up by 2 massive explosions that occurred within the factory, killing 28 people and injuring more than 70. 23 of the dead were buried in the town's old cemetery, and the other 5 in their respective parish. The noise of the explosion was reported to be so loud that it rattled the windows in Diss, approximately 17 miles away, and Southwold, 30 miles away. Let's see if we can bring that gun cotton explosion to life in some way.
Today's walk is a little walk down the River Gipping from Stowmarket in Suffolk, where we live, to the next town along, which is Needham Market, about 4 miles away. This is called the Gipping Valley Walk. On the way in this walk, I'll be telling you about the biggest explosion in the history of the world. So come and join us. Hard to believe it now, but boats used to come up this river right into Stowmarket, bringing goods into town and taking goods out of town. And one of the products of Stowmarket at that time was gun cotton, and it was made along the riverbank here somewhere. But something happened that changed this town forever. So back in 1871, right on the riverbank here and next to the railway line, there used to be Stowmarket Gun Cotton Company. Gun cotton was it's like gunpowder, but it was supposed to be slightly safer than gunpowder, and it was made here. And they had no health and safety. And there were several minor explosions, but on this Friday afternoon in 1871 there were two massive explosions that destroyed the gun cotton factory, smashed loads of windows in town. The blast was felt 14 miles away in a town called Dis. 23 people lost their lives and 70 more were maimed or otherwise injured in the explosion. Windows blew out all over town. There's a local church at St Mary's Coombs had all the stained glass window blown out, and that's why it's one of the few ancient churches today that has clear glass. It's hard to imagine what it would be like, but if you just think it's an explosion in a dynamite factory basically. The local and national newspapers carried the story, and I believe there was even an article in one of the American magazines. Today the incident is commemorated, if that's the right word. There's a street name on the new estate named Guncotton Way, and in the old cemetery in Stowmarket there's now a memorial for those who died in the explosion.
The video we've just seen mentioned that the explosion was the biggest in the world. Obviously it may have been at the time, and if so, that's another world record for Stowmarket. The government issued an order with a reward of £100 to find out the cause. The cause was probably several tons of gun cotton combusting due to the summer heat, the poor standards of hygiene, as well as a disregard for health and safety. Now, coming back to my bottle with Thomas Prentice and Company Limited, two members of the Prentice family who owned the factory, William Ridley Prentice, was Thomas's grandson, and Edward Henry Prentice was Thomas's son, and they were both included in the list of the dead, one killed in each explosion respectively. A team was gathered together by the government to investigate the cause, and that's been acknowledged as being the official start of the forensic science department that is used on many crime scenes today. So that's another first for Stowmarket. Earlier on in this talk, I mentioned the Reverend Young, who was the vicar of Stowmarket. He invited the Witchfinder General to come and flush out the witches. But did you know that around that time Stowmarket had its own currency? Small change at that time, and we're talking about silver pennies, was in short supply. To mint coins was a royal prerogative, and royalty did not see that minting coins at this time was a priority. The feudal system was breaking down, so workers were now increasingly paid for their work in money rather than in other forms like food and accommodation. And of course, there was the Civil War. The country was very short of any kind of coin in the Civil War. From 1649, there was no king. Therefore, there was no royal prerogative when it came to minting money. A person could not be punished, and it could be by death, for flouting a law that was no longer valid. So with the law out of the way, the people, the ordinary people, took over and token coinage was born. Shopkeepers evolved a pragmatic solution. they minted their own coins called trade tokens. It is thought there were 6 tradespeople in Stowmarket who issued their own tokens. This one is by Peter Brassier in 1658. On the left hand side around the outside you can just about see his name, and on the right hand side round the outside it says in Stowmarket with Peter Brassier's initials in the middle. And this token was by John Tarver. He issued his token in 1664, and you can see his name round the outside. And on the right, in Stowmarket, and his initials IT. At that time, there was no J in the alphabet, so IT there stands for John Tarver. And finally, the token of Israel Barrel. On the left hand side is the coat of arms of the grocers, so we know he was a grocer. And on the right hand side, in Stowmarket with the initials BIM. IB for Israel Barrel and MB for his wife. So his wife was probably called Mary or Margaret. And if you remember, I mentioned Israel Barrel previously, because at the time of the Reverend Young, he was responsible for collecting the town rate of £23.06 that was levied for the discovery of witches in 1645. Finally, let's revisit the names of the towns and villages of Suffolk that have an unusual pronunciation. Well, at least it sounds unusual to people from outside Suffolk. How would you pronounce this village name? Most of you will know it. It's Hoxton. But did you notice anything interesting in this village sign? In the bottom right hand corner is a trade token. And this is the second period in history where towns and traders had to issue their own currency based on a shortage in small value coinage. Here we see the token in a bit better focus, and here is an example of the token. You see a dismounted yeoman leaning against his horse with the words Pro Aris et Focus around it. The definition of that is for altars and hearths, in other words, for God and country. This was the slogan of landowners who supported the government, who were intent on quelling any radical opinions from working folk who were in favour of working people receiving the vote and being represented in Parliament. On the other side of the token, you see Hoxton and Hertsmere, Suffolk Loyal Yeomanry Cavalry. The Suffolk crest with 1795 below, within a garter inscribed Liberty, Loyalty, Property. And if you could see the edge of the coin, you would read the words God Save the King and Constitution. The government built barracks at strategic places to counteract unrest appearing among the workforce. Troops were stationed in a number of places, including Stowmarket. You may know that I collect trade tokens, and I have an Israel Barrel Stowmarket farthing token. You can see the grocer's coats of arms there. I'll put a 5p piece next to it, and you can see that the token is quite a bit smaller than a 5p piece. I've also got a Thomas Tallant Hoxton halfpenny token. You can see the soldier there leaning against the horse. I'll just turn the token over and you can see the IM, the initials. You can't quite see the B. And you can see the garter with the coat of arms inside and the date 1795.
This completes today's meeting. So we're going to leave Hoxton now, but only temporarily, because at our next monthly meeting, Tony Diamond is going to give us a talk on the Hoxton Hoard. What follows are some links to some of the topics that we covered in today's broadcast, and an invitation to you and your groups to send us your videos to use in future monthly meetings.